Alright guys, I'm running out of memory, so this may cut out all kinds of little memory glitches because I got so much on there. My storage is not there. I need to figure out some storage space because I want to keep a lot of these clips for maybe putting together a library or something online or whatever I need to do with it. But so right now it's going to be a mush meal. Let's see how she does. And, what I have done is I have mixed a bunch of dog food and water and soaked it real good and then smashed it with a fork. And then I came up here and then I watered it down after that. So it's pretty soupy. That's what you want. So remember, their digestion is not going to be all that good. So I'm going to put this in here. Try to keep them out of it so they don't get in it. So best probably go to the corner. And then see if I can get them to start eating it, which they will. There we go. Again, keeping their paws out of it's the hard spot because I don't want them getting in it and putting that into their guts, right? So we got to keep right on top of them and keep them from going in. Look at that. They're already eating on their own. So let me move this. It's going to get jumbled here, guys. You can see this, but... So nice and wet and soupy, get your paws out of there. That's the hard part because now they'll transfer whatever's on their paws right into the food. We don't want that in the beginning. So we got to be really diligent on top of this. As I've said before, puppies are a lot of work, but there's a lot of knowledge. Now keep in mind, a lot of this comes from just, I've done it with Tina, a couple litters, and at the same time, I've been dealing with animals my whole life. I used to have my first dog training business in my small hometown. Dog Obedience and Protection Unlimited was my first dog training business, and I was a lot like Oscar. I was perfect because I was young, didn't have any clue, and I was really fascinated with all the things that go into marketing. And we didn't have film and all that back then, but I had magnetic signs, yellow pages ads, and all the stuff. And as I've gotten older, I don't need that because I can only do so much business. And I'm not like Oscar trying to build a castle, you know what I mean? Build something that's huge. And one of my old boss at ProTrain, I saw him a few years ago. And we were talking about 20 years ago when I was there and all that. They ended up going to 5 different pet stores. And they grew all this stuff. And then you got all this stuff that you got to manage with the government being right on top of you. And health reports and inspections and all the stuff you got to deal with. Plus all the employees. They show up, they don't show up to work, that kind of thing. And all that work that goes into trying to manage that kind of a thing. So I have a lot of intuitive ability with animals, and my mom was a thoroughbred agent. I got into the pet trade. I had my first business. Again, like I said, I had a fish tank maintenance business to go with it. I was real heavy into the saltwater fish tanks. And we had a coastal town there, Morro Bay, California. Get your little paw out of there, you little shit. And I set up fish tanks in that little small town. My dad was one of the worked at one of the main restaurants in town as a bar manager. So it's a small local town. Everybody knows everybody. So I did their setup on their fish tank, and that took off. Dang it! And then I ended up having a full fish tank maintenance business. I had probably 5 or 6 different accounts in that little small town. That was enough to keep me some money coming in and enjoy myself with my hobby. Heavy hobbyist. I pretty much became an expert in saltwater fish tank and all that. This is 20 years ago now, right? So then I did that, and then I moved to LA, and I couldn't get a job selling cars. That's why I came to LA. I had a DUI on my record. I was this kid and did something stupid and slammed into 3 parked cars drunk when I was coming home. Everybody's got things that happens in their life when they're young people. And so I couldn't get bonded on the lot when I moved to LA, and I was gonna get on car sales. And so I ended up walking down the street and getting a job at a little hole-in-the-wall fish store called the Fish Bowl that specialized in fish, and that was my expertise. So it went along right away with what I was into. So that got me into the pet trade. And then slow but sure, I started working that, and then went from there to Pet City, which is owned by Shoe City. Anybody that knows LA knows Shoe City. They're all over the place. They're very established within the industry in shoes, and used to go to the basketball games and be able to get box seats and everything else. But so that was what we ended up with, and I started with. I've done all kinds of jobs like that where I climb from the very bottom, and it takes me 5 or 6 years, and I work my way up to assistant manager, then to manager. I opened a 10,000 square foot store. It was my little bone that they threw me because I was top salesman of the year for 2 years in a row. That's when you could carry puppies, and I would make my sales through education. That's why you hear me doing so much education. It's just who I am, because I've learned over the years that you're there to guide and help the customer to a point where the sale makes it easy in dogs, animals of all types, fish, when you educate people, right? Education is the key, and so I do my sales through education, and that's just the way I do things. So educate the customer and teach them what's going on, and boom, they're going to buy it, and they know you're there to guide them and help them, right? So fish tanks and all that good stuff, the fish tank, the pet industry, the 10,000 square foot on Knott and Catella in Orange County, it may still be there. They had 6-8 stores. Sioux City's got bunches of them. They're all over the country. Sioux City's very well established, and one of the biggest in the LA basin for sure. And then he backed his sister in the Pet City, right? And then Pet City was owned by her, and they had a lot of pet stores, 5 or 6. When I first started, they only had 2 or 3. And it grew because they put me into that Knott and Catella one, and they grew because of my passion. There's a lot of things that I've done that I've kind of, same thing with Pro Train. I was the one that kind of spurred them into going to the pet industry because I'd already been doing that area of expertise, and my interest was in the equipment, right? So it is what it is. Keeping their feet out of here is the hard part. So, but that's why I have so much little ability and intuitive ability and understanding animal maintenance and all that good stuff, and managing animals. It doesn't come with just doing a couple litters, guys. It comes from years of taking care of all kinds of animals, birds, fish, dogs. Back then we had puppies in pet stores. I used to give shots for 20 dogs at a time that were coming in and being spread out to all their stores. We'd get 15, 20 puppies in a whack and have to pop them all with shots and do all this stuff. There's people that have, Norman Augustin, he was working for me. I was the manager. He was my head fish tank maintenance guy in the pet stores back then, right? So those of you that know who Norman is, Norman's now in the Philippines, but he was a good friend for many years as well because of that background, right? So the stuff that I'm giving you comes from experience, right? It comes from an intuitive ability to understand how to watch and be good at animal husbandry, right? How to do things and keep it affordable by avoiding the vet. You don't see me panicking and running to the vet when I have a problem. I have the hematoma. I drained them myself. My only problem nowadays is what everybody's problem is. We used to be able to get our drugs bootlegged because of the guys going back and forth over the border, right? Now they've closed the border so dang much that I can't get my drugs. And the vets have closed that up because they're just taking advantage of people. I don't believe in the vets, in the modern day vets. They're not like the old time vets where I could get the help I needed just by showing them my experience and ability, and they would help me out and write me postscripts and everything else because they knew they'd get more business from me. I got a whole litter of puppies. I have a problem. I'm going to run to my vet. Well, nowadays, the vets are nothing more than an upscale. In other words, they're going to just like a car lot, just adding things to it and increasing everything, right? Get the heck out of there, dang it. Trying to keep their feet out of it's tough, guys. I'm experiencing it right now, so it'll get worse once they start getting used to this. Next time I feed them, they'll be running to this bowl. I'm going to let Mom have the rest of it, so she's going to get a double meal, and it's pretty wet, so she's probably going to get some loose stools. But this is the way it works, and now their behavior is going to be modeled by the others, right? So I'm trying to keep them learning to stay out of it, right? I can start doing some negative markers and things like that. They'll pick up on my voice tone pretty easy. That's one good thing. There's a few good things that I love about the Dutch Shepherd. One, they're a very hardy dog. They don't have many health problems at all. They have no problems with hips, any of that, for the most part. I mean, things do happen, but they're not prone to hip dysplasia, like a German Shepherd that's been screwed up by the Americans breeding program, right? So, in a nutshell, that's where my experience comes from. I have a multitude of any animal you can think of. Snakes, dogs, cats, all kinds of animals, all kinds of fish. I was into African cichlids for a long time, as well as my saltwater. I kind of went into that because it's just boring. Let's go over the Africans and cichlids. I was actually getting involved with some of the the fish that were getting found in Lake Malawi. Fire-tipped kikus is the name of one of the fish that I had, real fancy, that were not known very well, and I'd bring them over, and then I started breeding them. They were an easy breeder, and there wasn't many people with them, so they're bitchin' looking fish. Brochardi is what they are, and the Brochardi family. And they give them the name from what they start finding these little weird off stuff with color and stuff. So, but that's why I show a lot of intuitive ability with this. You know, it doesn't come without a lot of years of work and years of understanding and dealing with animals my whole life, right? So this is the love of life for me is animals and maintaining them. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of satisfaction in it as well, right? Now we're done with this. We basically got them to understand it's coming. That's going to be all they need for now. Every day I'll go do this a little bit, maybe in the morning, and start increasing their little taste of the food. And then they will get more and more wanting it, right? Next time I might put a little canned food in there to help out. Just keep doing that. That's all we need. Just a little taste. This is their first experience with it, and you saw a lot of them licking it. That's why I made it real soupy, so there's basically a water base in there. They're getting the soup, you know what I mean? Which is going to give them energy. And I don't want them to fill their guts up and just eat right away because, again, their digestion system has to get used to what's coming at it, that their digestion's not used to it, right? So we do this very slow and methodical and build up on it. The next time I come in, there'll be more of them eating because they're watching from each other, and it'll become more of a interaction with the food, and then pretty soon you won't be able to keep them out of the food. I'll have a heck of a time keeping their feet out of it and everything else. So, oh joy, what fun. And I'm starting to notice color and more size. As more size goes along, we'll get a lot more going. So, very cool. All right, guys, nice big fat happy puppies, all right? They're all very healthy. I've got a couple that are a little small, but that's natural because the small ones are smaller because they're getting pushed out by the other dogs. Here's one that's little small. Now, one of the things we can learn right here, how do you know if a dog's dehydrated, right? We pull up on the neck a little bit and we let it go. If it bounces right back, they've got good fluid. But if it sticks and stays up and then just kind of slowly goes back down, you know your puppies are getting dehydrated, right? That's true with all dogs or any type of things, right? There's little things. Check for dehydration. Pink lips. I press on the lips. Their mouths are so small. But main thing is if I see them really starting to be dehydrated, that's bouncing right back. And that means that mom's doing a good job and they got plenty of fluid in their body. When it gets hot like this, it's important that we stay on top of these little things, right? All right. Mark Paresh, Protect Dog Training, signing off. You guys have a good day.